The bedroom door slammed open so hard the frame cracked. I jerked awake, heart hammering against my ribs like it wanted to escape. Marcus stood there, silhouetted against the hallway light, his chest heaving like he'd run a marathon. The smell hit me next. Sharp cologne mixed with something sweeter, floral, definitely not mine. His shirt was buttoned wrong. "Emma!" he breathed, and I hated how my name sounded in his mouth after 4 years of silence. 4 years of sleeping on opposite sides of this king-sized bed like the Grand Canyon existed between us. 4 years of goodnight pecks that felt like obligation stamps on a time card. I sat up slowly, pulling the comforter to my chest. "What's wrong?" He moved toward me, and I noticed his hands were shaking. Actually shaking. Marcus never shook. Marcus was the man who gave presentations to boardrooms full of executives without breaking a sweat. Marcus was control wrapped in expensive suits and practiced smiles. "I need you." His voice cracked on the last word. The laugh bubbled up before I could stop it. Raw, sharp, bitter as burnt coffee. "You need me. 2 in the morning. When was the last time you even looked at me, Marcus?" He dropped to his knees beside the bed, and the shock of it froze my lungs. His fingers clutched at the sheets, at my hand, desperate and foreign and wrong. "Please, Em. I know I've been distant. I know I haven't been the husband you deserved. But I need you right now. I need us to be together. Tonight. Please." Before I go further, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I like to know how far my stories are reaching, and a like and subscribe means a lot to small channels like ours and will keep these stories coming. Now let's continue. The air conditioning kicked on, rattling the vents above us. I could hear Mrs. Patterson's dog barking next door, could smell that sickly sweet perfume still clinging to his collar. I'd smelled it before. Months ago. Maybe longer. On his shirts in the laundry. On the passenger seat of his car. I'd pretended not to notice because noticing meant deciding, and deciding meant shattering whatever fragile ghost of a marriage we'd been haunting for years. But this pathetic performance on his knees, this wasn't love returning. This wasn't awakening. This was panic. "What changed?" I asked quietly, pulling my hand away from his grip. 4 years, Marcus. 4 years of you coming home late, of separate bedrooms, of you flinching when I touched you. 4 years of me feeling like a piece of furniture you forgot to dust. So what the hell changed tonight? His face did something complicated. Fear flashed across it, then calculation, then something that might have been genuine desperation if I didn't know him better. "I realized what I was losing," he said, reaching for my face. I caught his wrist midair. His pulse hammered against my fingers, rapid and rabbit-quick. "Try again," I said. "And this time, leave out the script you've been rehearsing in the car." His jaw clenched. There it was. The real Marcus peeking through the performance, annoyed at being caught, frustrated that his usual charm wasn't working like some magic spell. "Emma, don't do this. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Harder than it needs to be." The laugh came again, darker this time. "You mean harder for you." I released his wrist and climbed out of bed, needing distance, needing air that didn't smell like another woman's perfume and my husband's desperation. My bare feet hit the cold hardwood, sending shivers up my spine. "You should know," I said, walking to the window, watching my reflection in the dark glass, "that I had lunch with Melissa today. Your secretary. Sweet girl. Very chatty after 2 glasses of wine." The silence behind me was so complete I could hear his breathing stop. "She mentioned something interesting," I continued, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening in my chest. "About some photos. About an email. About someone who might be very interested in your extracurricular activities." "Emma." His voice had gone cold. There was the Marcus I knew. "What did you do?" I turned to face him, and for the first time in 4 years I felt powerful. Felt awake. "What changed tonight, Marcus? Did someone send you something? A message maybe? A warning?" His face went white. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. Once. 3 times in rapid succession. Marcus lunged for it, but I was faster. I grabbed it, finger hovering over the screen. 7 new messages. All from a number I didn't recognize. All containing photos. Photos of Marcus and her. Photos that would destroy everything he'd built. Everything he cared about more than me. I looked up at my husband, at this stranger wearing a wedding ring, and smiled. "Now," I said softly, "let's talk about what I need." The phone buzzed again in my hand, and Marcus's eyes went wild with something that looked a lot like fear. Marcus's hand shot out toward my phone, but I stepped back, holding it against my chest like a shield. "Don't," I warned, and something in my voice made him freeze. Maybe it was the steadiness. Maybe it was the fact that for the first time in years, I wasn't backing down. His arm dropped to his side. In the dim light from the hallway, I could see sweat beading on his forehead, could hear the shallow rasp of his breathing. Fear looked strange on him, like a tailored suit worn inside out. "How long have you known?" he asked finally. "Known that you were sleeping with her? Or known that you're a coward?" He flinched. I wanted him to feel every word like a paper cut, small but stinging and persistent. "It's not what you think," he started, and I actually laughed out loud this time, the sound bouncing off the bedroom walls we'd chosen together 7 years ago when we still said words like forever and always. "It's never what I think, is it, Marcus? When you started coming home at midnight, it wasn't what I thought. When you stopped kissing me goodbye, stopped asking about my day, stopped looking at me like I existed, none of it was what I thought." I unlocked my phone, watching his body tense like a spring wound too tight. The photos loaded one by one. Marcus and her at a restaurant I'd begged him to take me to for our anniversary. Marcus and her in his car, the one he said needed to stay clean for client meetings. Marcus and her in what looked like a hotel room, tangled together in sheets that cost less than our marriage apparently did. "Who sent these to you?" His voice had gone quiet, dangerous in a way that might have scared me once before, when I still cared about keeping the peace. "Does it matter? Emma, please." He took a step closer, hands out like he was approaching a wild animal. "Whatever you're planning, whoever you've been talking to, we can fix this. We can work through this together." Together. I tasted the word bitter on my tongue. When's the last time we did anything together, Marcus? When's the last time you even touched me without flinching? The memory rose up unbidden, sharp as broken glass. 3 months ago, maybe 4. I'd reached for his hand across the dinner table, desperate for any scrap of connection. He'd pulled away so fast his wine glass tipped over, red spreading across the white tablecloth like a wound. "You act like I'm contaminated," I continued, my voice cracking despite my best efforts. "Like the idea of being close to me physically repulses you. 4 years, Marcus. 4 years of sleeping next to someone who treats me like a stranger. Do you know what that does to a person?" Something flickered across his face. Guilt maybe, or a performance of it. With Marcus I could never tell anymore. "I never meant to hurt you," he said. "You just meant to screw someone else while I waited at home like a good little wife." My phone buzzed again. Another message. This time a video file, the thumbnail showing Marcus's face close to the camera, smiling in a way he hadn't smiled at me in years. "Who is doing this?" Marcus demanded, his calm cracking. "Who's sending you these?" I could have told him the truth. That I'd hired someone 3 weeks ago when I'd found a receipt for diamond earrings I'd never received. That I'd spent our savings, the money we were supposed to use for the vacation he kept canceling, on a private investigator who'd found everything in less than a week. That I'd been planning this moment, preparing for it, rehearsing my lines while he rehearsed his lies. But the truth was less fun than watching him squirm. "Does she know?" I asked instead. "Your little girlfriend. Does she know you're married?" His silence was answer enough. "Of course not," I breathed. "You probably told her the same story you told me at the beginning. That you're devoted, faithful, different from all those other guys." Played the video. His voice filled the room, tinny through the phone speaker but unmistakable. "I love you," video Marcus said to someone off camera. "My wife doesn't understand me. We're basically roommates. As soon as the timing's right, I'm leaving her. I paused it, looked up at real Marcus standing in our bedroom, caught between his two lives like an insect pinned to a board. The timing's right, I said softly. I'm making it right. Emma, don't. Panic edged his voice now, sharp and raw. Think about what you're doing. Think about our life together. The house. Friends. Your reputation. My reputation. The words came out like stones. You're worried about my reputation. People will talk. They'll blame you. The wife who couldn't keep her husband happy. Who drove him into someone else's arms. He was right and we both knew it. That's how these stories always went in our circle. The man strayed because the woman got boring, got old, got too comfortable. Never mind that I'd begged him for counseling. Never mind that I'd tried everything to reach him, to fix whatever had broken between us. But I'd stopped caring about their opinions the moment I saw the first photo. Let them talk, I said. My phone rang this time, the vibration startling us both. Unknown number. I answered it on speaker. Mrs. Morrison. A woman's voice, young and uncertain. Marcus went completely still. Yes. This is Brittany Chen. I think we need to talk. About Marcus. The color drained from my husband's face so fast I thought he might pass out. Brittany, I said slowly, watching Marcus's expression shift from fear to horror to something close to despair. I've been hoping you'd call. You know who I am. She sounded surprised, maybe relieved. I know exactly who you are. And I think you should know exactly who I am too. I'm the wife Marcus told you he was leaving. The sharp intake of breath on the other end was satisfying in a way I'd never admit out loud. He said you two were separated, Brittany whispered. He said the divorce was already in progress. Marcus lunged for the phone again, and this time I let him take it. Let him fumble for words that wouldn't come. Let him try to explain his way out of the trap that had been closing around him for weeks while he'd been too arrogant to notice. Brittany, listen to me. He stammered into the phone. This isn't, she's twisting things, we can talk about this. I'm pregnant, Brittany said, and the world stopped spinning. Marcus's hand went slack, the phone clattering to the hardwood floor between us. I stared at it lying there, at the line still connected, at Brittany's quiet breathing on the other end mixing with Marcus's ragged gasps. Pregnant. The word I'd begged to hear from my own lips for 3 years before he stopped touching me altogether. The word that had died in my throat every month when the test came back negative, when Marcus said not yet, when he said maybe next year, when he finally stopped pretending to want children with me at all. I bent down slowly, picked up the phone with steady hands that surprised me. How far along? Yes. 12 weeks, Brittany whispered. I just found out yesterday. I told Marcus tonight at dinner. So that was it. That was the change. Not love returning. Not conscience awakening. Just panic that his perfectly compartmentalized life was about to explode. He'd come home desperate to secure his backup plan, to cement his marriage before his pregnant girlfriend became a problem he couldn't ignore. I looked at Marcus, really looked at him and felt nothing. The love I'd carried for 7 years, heavy and faithful and stubborn, had finally burned out. Brittany, I said calmly, I think you and I should meet tomorrow. There are some things you need to see. Emma, no, Marcus breathed. Please. We can figure this out. The 3 of us. We can be adults about this. You're right, I agreed, and watched hope flicker in his eyes like a candle about to die. We can be adults. Which is why I'm going to tell you what happens next. My phone buzzed with a new message. Not from the unknown number this time. From my lawyer. The divorce papers were ready. Tomorrow morning, I continued. You're going to pack a bag and leave this house. You're going to sign every document my lawyer puts in front of you. And you're going to give me everything. Everything. His voice cracked. The house. Cars. Half your retirement. Full alimony. And that vacation home your mother left you. The one you pretend I don't know about. You can't. I can. Because if you fight me, every person in your firm gets these photos. Every client. Every colleague. And Brittany's parents get a very detailed timeline of when their daughter started dating a married man who lied about being separated. You wouldn't. I smiled, and it felt like power coursing through my veins. Try me. The bedroom door opened behind Marcus, and we both spun around. My brother stood there, 2 police officers flanking him, their faces grim in the hallway light. Mrs. Morrison, one of them said, "You called about a disturbance?" I had. 2 hours ago. When Melissa had sent me the heads up that Marcus knew about the photos. When I'd known he'd come home desperate and possibly dangerous. "Yes, officer," I said calmly. "My husband came home erratic and aggressive. I'd like him removed from the property." "Emma, what are you doing?" Marcus's voice had gone high, panicked. "Tell them this is a mistake." "It is a mistake," I agreed. 4 years of mistakes. But I'm done making them. The officers moved forward, and Marcus stumbled back, hands up, eyes wild. "This is my house." "Actually," my brother said, stepping into the room with a folder in his hands. "It's hers. Has been since her grandmother left it to her 10 years ago. You just never bothered to check the deed." I watched understanding crash over Marcus like a wave. Watched him realize how thoroughly he'd been outplayed. How long I'd been planning this. How badly he'd underestimated the woman he'd stopped seeing years ago. The officers escorted him out. His protests echoing down the hallway, down the stairs, out into the night air that smelled like rain and endings. My brother squeezed my shoulder. "You okay?" I nodded, not trusting my voice yet. Brittany was still on the phone, silent but listening. "I'm sorry," she said finally, softly. "I didn't know." "I believe you," I said, and meant it. "Meet me tomorrow. 2 o'clock. Marcy's Cafe on 5th Street. "Why?" "Because you deserve to know who you're having a baby with. And because we both deserve better than Marcus Morrison." I hung up before she could respond, before the adrenaline could wear off and the shaking could start. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from an unknown number. Different from before. "Well played, Emma. Though you should know this isn't over. Check your email. You have one unread message from Morrison Industries HR department. Sent 1 hour ago. Subject: termination of employment." My blood went cold. I opened my email with trembling fingers. The message loaded slowly, each word a punch to the gut. Marcus had gotten me fired from the company we'd built together. The company where I'd worked for 6 years. Where half the clients were mine. Where my name was on patents and contracts and deals that had made us millions. Effective immediately. Security breach. Misappropriation of company resources. Lies. All perfectly documented lies with forged evidence and witness statements from people I'd thought were friends. He'd known. Somehow he'd known I was planning to leave him, and he'd been planning his own revenge. I scrolled down, reading the attached documents with growing horror. My company email was locked. My access revoked. My reputation systematically destroyed in carefully worded memos that made me look unstable, vindictive, possibly criminal. The phone rang again. My lawyer this time, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Emma, what the hell did you do at Morrison Industries? I've got 3 different law firms calling me about restraining orders and pending lawsuits." "I didn't do anything," I breathed. "Marcus. He must have planned this. How long has this been in the works?" "Based on the documentation. Weeks. Maybe months. This is sophisticated, Emma. This is coordinated. He's been building a case against you while you were building one against him." I sank onto the bed, the mattress dipping under my weight, the room spinning slightly around me. Can he do this? He already did. Whether it sticks is another question, but the damage is done. Your name is on internal memos at Morrison Industries painting you as a disgruntled employee with boundary issues. By morning, every business contact you have will have heard some version of this story. The bedroom suddenly felt too small, too dark, too much like a trap I'd walked into thinking I was the hunter. What do I do? For now, nothing. Let me handle the legal response. But Emma, you need to prepare yourself. This is going to get ugly. Marcus isn't the man you thought he was. She hung up, and I sat there in the silence, holding my phone like a live grenade. Car pulled up outside. I went to the window and looked down. Marcus stood on the sidewalk, talking on his phone, looking up at the house with an expression I'd never seen before. Cold. Calculating. Triumphant. He'd let me think I'd won. Let me play out my little revenge fantasy with the photos and the lawyer and the dramatic confrontation. All while he'd been destroying everything I'd built. He waved at me, a small gesture that made my skin crawl. Then he got in the car and drove away, leaving me standing in our bedroom, wondering how badly I'd just miscalculated. My phone buzzed with one final message. Checkmate, sweetheart. See you in court. And underneath it, an attachment. Video file. My finger hovered over it, every instinct screaming not to open it, but unable to stop myself. The video played. It was me. In Marcus's office 3 weeks ago. The day I'd searched his computer for evidence. The day I'd thought I was alone. But the camera angle showed something I hadn't seen. Showed my hands downloading files to a USB drive. Showed me going through confidential client information. Showed me doing exactly what the HR report accused me of. Evidence of corporate espionage. Time-stamped and documented and completely damning. I'd walked right into his trap thinking I was setting one. The video ended with Marcus's face filling the frame, recorded just tonight, smiling that smile I used to love. See you tomorrow, Emma. Come prepared to lose everything. The screen went black, and I saw my own reflection staring back at me, pale and shocked and terrified. What had I done? I didn't sleep. Couldn't. Just sat on the bed watching the sky turn from black to gray to that bruised purple that comes right before dawn. Marcus's final message playing on repeat in my mind. Checkmate. My hands shook as I made coffee at 5 a.m. The kitchen too quiet without Marcus's morning routine, too loud with my own ragged breathing. The house felt different now. Not like a home. Like a museum of a life that had never been real. My phone rang. Brittany's number. Hello. I couldn't sleep either, she said quietly. I kept thinking about what you said. About meeting today. About Marcus. I heard something in her voice. Something that sounded like the same hollowness echoing in my chest. Are you okay? I asked, and almost laughed at the absurdity of the question. Neither of us was okay. Neither of us would be for a while. He called me. After the police took him. He said you were crazy. That you'd been unstable for months. That you'd stolen company secrets and he'd tried to help you and this was how you repaid him. The coffee turned bitter in my mouth. And you believed him. Silence stretched between us, filled with all the lies Marcus had told us both, all the ways he'd made us doubt ourselves. No, Brittany said finally. Because he said the exact same thing about his last girlfriend when she started asking questions. I found her on social media last night. Melissa helped me. Melissa. Marcus's secretary. The one who'd started all this with lunch and wine and carefully dropped hints. What did she say? The ex-girlfriend. That Marcus is a liar. That he's done this before. Multiple times. That there's a pattern. He finds successful women, makes them fall in love with him, gets access to their money or their connections, then destroys them when they're no longer useful. My coffee cup slipped from my fingers, shattering on the tile floor. Brown liquid spread across the white grout like the stain spreading across my entire life. Emma. You there? How many? My voice came out strangled. How many women? For that we found. Maybe more. He married 2 of them. The others he just used and discarded. One lost her business. Another lost custody of her kids because of things Marcus said in court. Emma, he's not just a cheater. He's something else. Something worse. I sank to the floor, glass crunching under my knees, not caring, not feeling anything except the weight of my own stupidity. 7 years. I'd wasted 7 years on a predator who'd been hunting me the whole time. The company, I whispered. Morrison Industries. When did he start it? According to the incorporation documents Melissa found, 2 weeks after he married you. Using your grandmother's house as collateral for the initial loan. Your connections to get the first clients. Your designs for the first patents. The room spun. I thought Marcus built that company. Thought his brilliance had made us wealthy. Thought I was just the supportive wife helping from the sidelines. But I was never the wife. I was the mark. He's been stealing from me for 7 years, I said to the empty kitchen. Everything. He took everything. Not everything, Brittany said, and her voice had gone hard. Not yet. But we need to move fast. I'm sending you something. An email. Don't open it on your phone. Use a clean computer. One Marcus never had access to. The line went dead. I sat there on the floor surrounded by broken porcelain and spilled coffee, my mind racing through 7 years of memories, seeing them all differently now. The way Marcus had pushed me to introduce him to my grandmother before she died. The way he'd insisted on joint accounts but kept his own separate. The way he'd slowly, methodically isolated me from friends who asked too many questions. The way he'd stopped touching me 4 years ago, right after my grandmother died and the house became legally mine. He hadn't fallen out of love. He'd gotten what he needed and started planning his exit. I pulled myself up, ignoring the glass cutting through my pajama pants, ignoring the blood, ignoring everything except the burning need to understand how deep this went. My laptop sat on the kitchen counter. I opened it, cleared the browser history, logged into an email account I'd created years ago and forgotten about. One new message from Brittany. No subject line. Just an attachment. A folder labeled, The Real Marcus Morrison. Clicked it. Tax documents showing shell companies in my name I'd never created. Loans I'd never signed for. Lawsuits from former business partners claiming I'd stolen from them. Forged my signature, committed fraud. All dated over the past 4 years. All building a case that I was the criminal while Marcus was the victim trying to hold our life together. Oh God, I breathed. He was going to send me to prison. This wasn't just divorce. This wasn't just revenge. This was a complete systematic destruction of my entire existence, carefully planned and perfectly executed while I'd been busy feeling unwanted and unlovable. My phone rang again. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Morrison, this is Detective Sarah Chen. I'm calling about a report filed last night concerning your husband. I didn't file a report. I just asked for him to be escorted from the property. Not that report. A different one. Filed by Marcus Morrison at 11 p.m. yesterday claiming you assaulted him, threatened him with a weapon, and stole proprietary company information. The trap closed tighter. That's not true. Can you come down to the station? We need to ask you some questions. Am I being arrested? Was. Not at this time. But we do need your statement. Hung up. Called my lawyer. Got voicemail. Called again. Nothing. Text came through from a number I recognized. My lawyer. Emma, I'm sorry. I can't represent you anymore. Conflict of interest. Marcus's firm just hired my senior partner. Good luck. Good luck. I was alone. Completely, utterly alone. Or so I thought. The doorbell rang. I walked to the front door, expecting police, expecting Marcus, expecting the world to finally collapse completely around me. Instead, Brittany stood there. And behind her, 4 other women I'd never met. And Melissa. And my brother. And a woman in an expensive suit holding a briefcase that looked like it cost more than my car. Emma Morrison, the woman said. I'm Catherine Reeves. I represent the law firm of Reeves and Associates. We specialize in cases like yours. I can't afford a lawyer right now. You're not paying. We are. She gestured to the women behind her. All of us. Every woman Marcus Morrison tried to destroy. We've been waiting for someone to fight back. And when Brittany called us last night, we knew it was time. One of the women stepped forward. She looked familiar, like someone I'd seen in business magazines. I'm Jennifer Hartley. Marcus married me in 2008. Divorced me in 2010. Took my software company and rebranded it under his name. I've spent 12 years trying to prove what he did. Another woman moved beside her. Rachel Kim. He got me fired from my own architectural firm by claiming I was mentally unstable. I lost my professional license for 3 years. They kept coming, each with a story, each with scars, each with the same hollow look in their eyes that I'd seen in my mirror for 4 years. How did you find each other? Asked. Melissa, Jennifer said. She's been working for Marcus for 6 years. Watching him do this over and over. Collecting evidence. Waiting for the right moment. Melissa stepped forward, and I saw her clearly for the first time. Not sweet, chatty Melissa who'd told me about the photos over wine. Strategic, brilliant Melissa who'd been playing the long game while Marcus thought he was the only one with a plan. He tried this with my sister 5 years ago, Melissa said quietly. She killed herself when he was done with her. When everything she'd built was gone and everyone believed his lies instead of her truth. I got the job at Morrison Industries specifically to take him down. I just needed the right partner. She looked at me, and I saw grief and rage and determination burning in her eyes. You were supposed to be the victim that finally broke him. But instead you became the weapon. Catherine opened her briefcase, pulled out a stack of folders thick enough to use as a doorstop. We have everything, she said. Every forged document. Every shell company. Every lie he told to every woman. Tax evasion. Wire fraud. Identity theft. And thanks to your little video of him tonight with Brittany. Proof that he's been maintaining multiple relationships under false pretenses, which in this state constitutes fraud. The video of me in his office, I said. The one he's using to prove I stole company secrets. Was taken on a company computer you legally had access to as a senior partner. The files you downloaded were ones you created. The clients you contacted were ones you brought to the firm. Marcus doesn't have a case. He just has smoke and mirrors and the hope that you'd panic before you realized it. I looked at these women, these strangers who'd become my army overnight, and felt something unfamiliar bloom in my chest. Oh, what do we do? Catherine smiled, and it was sharp enough to cut. We destroy him the way he tried to destroy you. Completely. Legally. Publicly. And we make sure he never does this to anyone else ever again. The next 6 hours were a blur. Statements to lawyers. Calls to the detective explaining that I'd be coming in with representation. Emails to former clients telling them the truth about Morrison Industries. By noon the story had broken. Business Insider picked it up first. Then CNN. Then everyone. Serial con man posed as entrepreneur while systematically destroying wives and girlfriends. Marcus's face was everywhere. Not the handsome, charming face he showed the world. The real face. Cold. Calculating. Caught in a dozen photos with a dozen different women, all of whom were now coming forward. My phone exploded with messages. Friends I hadn't heard from in years. Colleagues Marcus had convinced to cut me off. Clients who'd believed his lies about my instability. All apologizing. All asking how they could help. At 2 p.m., I met Brittany at Marcy's cafe like we'd planned. But we weren't alone. The press was there. Catherine was there. All of Marcus's victims were there. And we told our stories. All of them. In camera. For the world to hear. Brittany went last, her hand on her still flat stomach, her voice steady despite the tears. I'm having his baby, she said. And I'm terrified. But I'm also grateful. Grateful that Emma Morrison was strong enough to fight back. Grateful that these women were brave enough to come forward. Grateful that my child will never have to wonder if their father was a good man. They'll know the truth. And they'll know that the women he tried to break were actually the strongest people I've ever met. The cafe erupted in applause, and I felt something crack open in my chest. Not breaking. Opening. Like a door I'd kept locked for 4 years finally swinging wide. By 5 p.m. Morrison Industries stock had crashed. The board had called an emergency meeting. Marcus's assets were frozen pending investigation. By 7 p.m. he was arrested. Wire fraud. Tax evasion. Identity theft across state lines. I watched it on the news from my living room, surrounded by women who'd become sisters in trauma and triumph, and felt nothing for the man being led away in handcuffs. He'd stolen 4 years of my life, my trust, my sense of self, my ability to believe in love. But he hadn't stolen my future. My phone rang one last time. Marcus, calling from jail. I almost didn't answer, almost let it go to voicemail, almost took the high road. But I'd spent 4 years being good, being patient, being the understanding wife. I was done being good. Hello, Marcus. Emma. His voice was small, broken, nothing like the man who'd stood in my bedroom begging for intimacy just 24 hours ago. Please. I know I messed up, but you have to help me. For what we had. For the 7 years we spent together. I looked around the room at the women he'd destroyed, at Brittany with her hand on her stomach, at Melissa who'd spent 6 years planning his downfall, at my own reflection in the darkened window. What changed? I asked softly. That's what you never answered last night. What changed, Marcus? Why did you come home begging after 4 years of treating me like I didn't exist? He was quiet for a long moment. Then, in a voice raw with something that might have been actual honesty for the first time in our entire relationship, he said, I was scared. Brittany was pregnant. The company was being audited. I needed you to play the supportive wife one more time. Needed your money, your house, your connections to weather the storm. I thought if I could convince you we still had something, you'd help me like you always did. Like I always did, I repeated. You mean like I always saved you? Yes. The admission hung between us. 7 years of lies finally crystallizing into one simple truth. I'd never been his wife. I'd been his safety net, his bank account, his ladder to climb. And the moment I stopped being useful, I became disposable. I'm not saving you anymore, Marcus, I said. I'm not even going to watch you drown. I'm just going to live my life like you never existed. Emma, please. Hung up, blocked the number, deleted his contact, erased him as thoroughly as he'd tried to erase me. 3 months later, I sat in a courtroom watching Marcus get sentenced to 15 years for fraud. Brittany sat beside me, her pregnancy starting to show, her hand in mine. She'd decided to keep the baby. Decided that one good thing could come from all this darkness. And I decided to be there for her, to be the family Marcus never was. The other women were there too. Jennifer, Rachel, all of them. We'd formed a support group, then a foundation. Started helping other women escape men like Marcus. Started teaching them the warning signs, the patterns, the ways predators operated. Started turning our pain into purpose. The judge read the sentence, and Marcus looked back at me one last time. I met his eyes and smiled. Not with anger. Not with satisfaction. Just with the quiet contentment of someone who'd survived a war and come out stronger. He'd taken 4 years of my life. But I'd taken back everything else. After the sentencing, we all went to dinner, laughed, told stories, made plans for the foundation's next fundraiser. My phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. Is this Emma Morrison? I saw you on the news. Think I need help. My husband hasn't touched me in 3 years, but last night he came home begging. Something feels wrong. I looked at the message, at the familiar words, at another woman standing where I'd stood just months ago. And I knew exactly what to say. Meet me tomorrow. You're not alone. And you're stronger than you know. I promise. I sent it, put my phone away, and turned back to my sisters, to Brittany, to the life I was building from the ashes of the one Marcus had tried to burn down. He'd asked what changed. Everything had changed. And I was never going back. The rain started falling outside the restaurant windows, washing the streets clean, and I thought about that night 4 years ago when Marcus stopped touching me. The night I started dying inside. I wasn't dying anymore. I was finally beautifully, powerfully alive. And that was the best revenge of all.